Dr. Fuhrman, last night you mentioned something about our weight and its correlation with cancer. So if someone's eating a whole food plant-based diet and they're doing great, but they weigh 170 pounds, um, and their ideal weight should be 155 pounds, does that mean that even though they're eating a whole food plant-based diet, that they should be focusing on cutting the fat or eating less to get down to 155, meaning that both people are on a whole food plant-based diet, but are you saying the one that weighs 15 pounds less would have a lower risk of cancer? You could all answer this.
The quick answer is yes, that body fat, when a male's body fat starts to inch up above 15% and a woman's body fat goes above 25%, we start to see more insulin resistance, more prediabetes, more pro-inflammation coming, more interference with the immune function, and we start to see increased disease risks. And it's usually due to wrong food choices, it's usually not eating too much because they can eat more, still eat a lot of food and eat foods that have a lighter caloric density, more vegetables, eggplant, asparagus, artichokes. They can still eat a lot of food, but it's usually making the wrong food choices that leads to that. Not a person eating perfectly. Usually when they get their diet right and they get them eating a good assortment of natural plants, they don't have to restrict portions that low and they could still keep their weight more favorable. So yeah, I do advocate nutrient density in the cells and reduction of toxic waste in the cells. And the body works best with a high phytonutrient exposure in each cell. And we do that by modulating our diet to be as favorable as possible, to as much favorable foods as possible to achieve those kind of results. So it's suspicious that this person probably could do a little better job if they're still 25 pounds overweight.
I think it was beautifully answered. The only thing I would add is that to focus on the true meaning of whole food, plant-based. If the food that the person is consuming is truly in a state where you could recognize it growing in the garden, or cucumbers, beans, kale, it's mostly fiber and water is what those foods are botanically, chemically, and that is a great liberation, because if you go back for a third bowl of vegetable soup, who cares? It really doesn't matter. It's all fiber and water, and it sloshes through you, and you poop out the fiber. It's when you start adding not only the very nutrient dense foods. You don't want to eat 8 avocados a day, but also when I heard whole wheat go by, and so once you put flour products into the food stream there, that changes a lot. The sugars in the flour are absorbed more rapidly, greater insulin response. It's harder to burn off your own fat if there's a lot of sugar in your blood from the flour products, and also to hold that whole wheat bun together, the whole wheat bagel, whatever it is, there's usually there's a fat involved. The flour would just fall apart. There's some fat. There's a shortening in commercial baked goods. There's a shortening. It's egg yolks. But in the vegan world, nut butters, etc. Well, once you get that fat sugar combination going, and you take a bite of the vegan donut or whatever it might be, and the fat and sugar enter the blood at the same time, the body says, sugar, fat, I'll burn that sugar now. It's easier to burn. I'll store that fat for later. And that fat-sugar combination is really notorious for really piling on the weight there. And when you pour oil on your pasta, you're creating that fat-sugar combination. The almond butter and jelly sandwiches, you'll burn the sugar in the jelly and the bread. You store the fat in the almond oil. So I suspect if you really had that person bring in an honest food diary for 3 or 5 days, you'd probably see the foods that are keeping them heavy there. And you want to break up those fat-sugar combos, eat them separately, but keep their belly full of whole vegetables and fruits, and the weight will come down.
And the only go ahead, Matt. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I was just gonna add, that's the thing with jumping in. I was just gonna add that to be clear, as Dr. Fuhrman had mentioned, it's specifically excess body fat accumulation, so not necessarily just weight. So for example, if somebody's a bit taller, then for them a healthy weight might be a little bit higher than somebody who's shorter, and vice versa. So I just didn't want someone to come away thinking it was all just specifically about weight, because things like muscle mass and bone mass and everything play into that as well. And one thing that we could point to really hone in on the fact that obesity or excess adiposity specifically increases risk is bariatric surgery. So surgery that leads to weight reduction also lowers cancer risk. And that's usually, I wouldn't say necessarily always, but often associated with, not really a huge significant change in diet quality. So people just end up eating less, they lose fat, but they still have a lower risk of certain cancers.
And the other thing I'd like to add is I found it really interesting. You're, I know, all aware of Roy Taylor's work, and his latest study was called Retune. And one of the things that it brought out was the personal fat threshold. And so even people with a normal BMI may actually be overweight, even though we would consider them normal weight. So they may be storing excess fat in their liver, their pancreas, and even a small loss of 5 to 10% of their weight can lead to like a 40 to 80% reduction in the hepatic and pancreatic fat levels. And so for some individuals, especially if they, their BMI is normal, but they tend to hold a little extra weight in their abdomen area, sometimes they actually need to lose weight, even though they're normal weight. And we see this so often in Asian populations. They might have a BMI of 23 and be overweight. So this is just something to be aware of. It can make a huge difference. You can improve insulin sensitivity markedly by reducing these fat deposits in these organs.
Okay, if someone says, I saw your lectures, I read your books, and I'm totally in, I'm going to eat a whole food plant-based diet all the time, just like 3 or 4 days a week, I have eggs in the morning. Is that, and obviously they do not want to increase their risk of a disease, but they would like to include eggs 4 days, 2 eggs 4 days a week. Is this a big deal, or is this not that big a deal? How should they think about eating a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, but also adding in eggs in terms of disease prevention?
It's a bad idea. Why in the world to start your morning off with the 2 big gloms of the most concentrated collection of saturated fat and cholesterol on the planet? That's going to head for places that it shouldn't, like the visceral fat stores, your artery walls, and the fried albumin in the egg white. Probably not friendly stuff either. Probably increases IGF production by your liver. It's a bizarre thing to start your morning off with. It's strictly a taste thing, a comfort food thing. Good heavens, there's better stuff to eat than 2 eggs. And we can talk about, some it elevates the risk of this, and that from all the saturated fat. But basically, it's time to change the person's taste, to either oatmeal and fruit in the morning, or even the just egg stuff. If you have to have an omelet, I'd rather it be pea protein than true egg products there. So I'm not a big fan of 2 eggs in the morning, to say the least. And I think they're increasing their risk for a number of medical problems.
I'd say that there are 2 really critical things to consider here. One is the dose, and 2 is what you're replacing it with. So for one, if you look at eggs versus meat, and there are studies that essentially do that comparison, you see that eggs are healthy. So if you're replacing things like bacon or sausages with eggs, that's a better choice. But if you compare eggs, especially daily consumption, with plant protein sources, the plant protein sources win out every time for things like cardiovascular risk, all-cause mortality. Now, would I, extend that to like 1 egg a week or something? Probably not. But if we're talking, 2 a day, 3 to 4 days a week, that's about 1 a day average. That is about where we see risks start to accrue, especially if it's consumed in place of plant protein. So I'd say the plant protein sources still win out pretty handily there.
And the studies that looked at replacing 3% of calories from animal protein with plant protein, the large studies, Singh from 2016, and then the 2020 NIH study, eggs were, one of the best things to replace with plant protein. The numbers were sort of in the 20% range for risk reduction, so mortality risk reduction. So I think And eggs don't have any fiber. They don't provide the phytochemicals and antioxidants that you would get if you were eating a whole food plant-based breakfast. And so we have to consider that as well. Like Matt said, what you're replacing. Well, if you're replacing really good, healthy whole plant foods with eggs, it's not such a good trade-off.
Right. You guys just said this, the same thing. What you could eat flax seeds and chia seeds and some groats and some, like Brenda does, with black lentils and groats with there's so many anti-cancer longevity promoting foods you could have replaced those calorie with. It's all, right? We can do so good with, we know so many foods are so longevity promoting and cancer protecting that we can put in our breakfast. Let's pick those.